February 2021. Let me begin by firstly welcoming all of you who are here, and if I may, well, let me go into the prayer first. Can I ask a volunteer to say a few words of prayer, please? Oh, Member Golden.
Heavenly Father, we invite your presence in this chamber today. We ask you to order our thoughts and to guide and direct our deliberations in the interest of our nation. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much. All right, so just a quick reminder before I ask for, as the agenda suggests, apologies for absence, that the committee members is, of course, joint select, upper house, lower house. As it relates to the upper house, we have Attorney General Marlene Mallow Fort, MP Morland Wilson, MP Carencia Morrison, MP Crystal Lee, MP Morris Guy, and Mrs. MP Joy Denise Daly. And in the Senate, or from the Senate, we have Senators Cavan Gale, Sophia Longmore, Shireen Golding Campbell, Janice Allen, and Gabriella Morris. And so we have 12 members of the committee. Are there any apologies for absence? No?
Yes, we do. Apologies for Member Guy.
Okay, Member Guy. Any other?
Chair, we have lateness for Senator Longmore.
Senator Longmore, okay, fine. Any other? No? All right, thank you for that. I want to use the opportunity to welcome not just the members who are here based on their appointment to the committee, and thank you very much for coming and for being early. And we look forward to that continued promptness as we seek to deliberate on this very important matter. But I also want to use the opportunity to welcome on the opposite side of the members of the committee, the support team, the technical team. I cannot say that I have the names of everyone. So I don't know, is that okay if I have them to introduce themselves? All right, so I'm going to ask them to just introduce themselves by name and position and organization. Starting, yes.
Good morning, Shanae Cunningham, Legislative Council, Houses of Parliament. Sorry, Shanae Cunningham, Legislative Council from the Houses of Parliament.
Albert Edwards, Legal Consultant, Ministry of Health and Wellness.
Cheryl Dennis Wright, Legal Officer, Ministry of Health and Wellness.
Marlene Aldred, Solicitor General.
Yanni Campbell. Okay. Yanni Campbell, Minister's Office.
Thank you very much.
Chair, could I just ask Ms. Wright to repeat her first name?
Cheryl with an S.
Cheryl Wright.
Yes.
She's part of the legal team from the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
With an
All
S.
right, and I want to also welcome and thank the Houses of Parliament for the efforts that they have put into preparing this committee. I mean, there's a lot of paperwork, and we're going to ask you to extend your our appreciation, well, firstly to yourself, but we also look forward to that collaboration as we seek to deliberate on what is a very important matter. So, members of the committee, as part of my welcome, I'd like you to allow me 5 minutes just to read for the records an opening statement. The government of Jamaica has drafted a tobacco bill which aims to protect Jamaicans from the harmful effects of tobacco use and exposure to smoke. I am pleased to be starting the deliberations in our Parliament this morning. Also quite pleased that these deliberations will include, of course, the Joint Select Committee of Parliament, members of both Houses of Parliament. So in so doing, and in recognition of the public's own deliberations at this matter, we will have and expect robust discussions and hopefully conclusions that augurs well to the benefit and certainly the public health of the general population. I need not say that our ability to generate consensus on issues of national importance are largely determined by the extent to which the public participate in the decision-making process. So we expect that the deliberations in Parliament will examine a range of issues, will take into consideration the aims of the Tobacco Control Bill, the negative impact of tobacco use, and of course the benefits to be derived from the bill. Once approved, Jamaica will have, we hope, a comprehensive legislation that bans all forms of tobacco advertising, promotion, and sponsorship. The new laws will strengthen the government's ability to protect the health of Jamaicans, ensure people have all the relevant information to make informed decisions, and reduce citizens' exposure to secondhand smoke. At the same time, it will also protect people from inducements to use tobacco products, protect the health of children, and promote dissemination of information about the addictive effects associated with tobacco use. The new tobacco bill also addresses current weaknesses in the legal and regulatory framework and will make us fully compliant with the WHO's Framework Convention on Tobacco Control. Jamaica ratified the Convention Treaty some 15 years ago. We must now therefore complete the process by passing the tobacco law. There is no question that the ratification is a critical step in tackling the illicit trade in tobacco products and the related public health threat. Why is this bill important, and what are the expected benefits? In the first instance, it is important to emphasize the harmful effects of tobacco consumption, first or secondhand. Tobacco kills more than 8 million people annually. This is clinically proven, and can lead to tobacco dependence and serious health problems, including poor reproductive health, cardiovascular diseases, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, and cancer. In essence, tobacco use is harmful to nearly every organ in the body. It has been reported that 90% of lung cancer cases seen at Hope Institute were because of tobacco use. This is in line with estimates from cancer epidemiologists in other countries. Estimates also show that a smaller percentage of people develop lung cancer from breathing in secondhand smoke. Overall, tobacco is responsible for 11% of all non-communicable diseases and 3% of communicable deaths in Jamaica. Some 6% of cardiovascular deaths and 20% of stroke deaths in Jamaicans 30 years and older have been attributed to tobacco use. Those are quite alarming statistics, and this is pulled from the data that we have within public health. We must also take seriously the fact that most of these deaths occur in Jamaicans between 45 and 49 years old, which is when persons are at their prime. So as it relates to premature deaths, tobacco consumption significantly contributes to that. The COVID-19 pandemic has also taught us many lessons, one of which is the need to address with greater urgency diseases that make Jamaicans more susceptible to severe illnesses. Smokers have some of the highest incidences of complications from COVID-19, and smoking is associated with increased severity of disease and death in hospitalized COVID-19 patients. There's also another reason for the legislation, that is to protect the vulnerable and in particular our children. The Global Youth Tobacco Survey 2017 showed that some 15.6% of Jamaican students use tobacco products. Also, worryingly, is that in the last global student-based school survey, 65.6% of students 13 to 15 years old reported that people smoked in their presence on one or more days. The evidence is clear, ladies and gentlemen, secondhand smoking carries severe health consequences. So in closing, as I welcome you, and not intending to make you feel, find despair in these gloomy statistics, but rather to motivate you to work diligently and understand exactly the purpose of the work and the importance of it. It is time to pass a new tobacco control law. It's long overdue, actually. And, I want to also recognize the work that was done by the previous Minister of Health, not a part of this administration, previous Minister Fenton Ferguson, who did some amount of work in certainly as it relates to amending the legislation to allow for no smoking public spaces. And the next step would have been the comprehensive legislation. And I think it's appropriate just to recognize him for his contribution. We now have to take the baton and move to the next level. And this will be quite significant, game-changing, because it is comprehensive legislation that we're advancing. The law will protect Jamaicans, including children and the vulnerable, from the harmful and addictive effects of tobacco use. It will allow us to fulfill our international responsibilities. Most importantly, it gives us an opportunity to protect Jamaican citizens and the health and well-being of the Jamaican population. I certainly look forward to the participation of members here and those we will invite from the public, and ultimately a consensus around a final piece of legislation that will benefit the public health of our population, which for me is the most important issue. So I thank you again for that. Now, this meeting is really intended just to deal with procedural issues, so it's not intended to detain us too long. And I want to begin, of course, by saying that whatever we do, my approach is to have consensus. So I'm not going to be hitting the gavel here and just telling you that this is the way it will be. I'm going to ask for your comments, and hopefully we can agree as we move on. First things first, the quorum for this gathering. We have 12 members on the committee. I've asked for guidance, and I'm told that between 3 and 4 is normally a sweet spot, if you will, for quorum. And I am putting it to you. What is your suggestion? Is there another number outside of 4 that you think? The floor is open, and then we decide and move on.
Chair, I think 4 is an appropriate number, a third of the members present.
Morning, Minister. Sorry about being late. Is there a requirement in terms of the percentage that needs to be? Okay.
No requirement, I'm told. Four is appropriate. Okay.
If only we could have fixed the gender balance, Chair, but I'm not really complaining.
I'm sure you're very comfortable. I suspect that next week you'll be sitting in another location until you spread right out. All right, so I'm getting
Excuse me, Chairman, can I ask? Is it 4
Yes.
including the chairman or 4 plus the chairman?
I would say the 4 includes the chairman. Is that sufficient?
The standing order speaks of 3 when it has not been settled by the committee, so it's a fallback position. So
4 is good then. Right, so 4, that's what I said, 4 including the chairman. All right, so if that is settled, let's agree to that. Okay, so 4 as a quorum. In terms of the way forward, I am going to propose for discussion my own interpretation of what I think may be an efficient approach. Okay? So I'll speak first and then you can come in. So I'm proposing, one, that we meet twice per month at least, so every other week. Okay? That in the first 2 meetings, we ask the team and Mr. Edwards, who is a consultant to the ministry, who worked on this bill, who has significant experience as a former chief parliamentary counsel, will take us through the bill, or certainly the aspects of the bill that we may want to appreciate a little more, whether 1 meeting from now or 2, depending on what time is needed, so that the committee can be fully abreast of the nature of some of the more controversial aspects of the bill. And he'll be supported by my team at the ministry, both legal and policy. A notice is served to the public during this period for a 3 to 4 week submission of presentations, because we want the public's participation. We want a collaborative, broad-based approach. So persons, whether entities or otherwise, could write in and come before the committee to make presentation. Now, a lot of consultations have taken place leading up to this final draft or this proposed piece of legislation. And one approach, which I probably would prefer, would be to write to some of these key agencies. So we have, for example, the Association of General Practitioners, Caribbean College of Family Physicians, Diabetes Association, Cancer Society, Nurse Association, Heart Foundation, Medical Council of Jamaica, Dental Association, Carreras Limited, the Tobacco Company, Jamaica Teachers Association, National Secondary Students Council, Jamaica Union of Tertiary Students. So we could write to them and explain what we're doing and invite them to prepare submissions, and then they would come and appear. And we can put in a protocol as it relates to how long each should last. And I'm proposing that we do that, but then we'll announce to the public also for any other person. And at the end of that process, there is a procedure that guides how these committees work, joint select committees. I mean, there's a written up document, which then, of course, will be tabled. So it's 2 weeks, initial meeting, going through, invite with some timelines, submissions, notify some agencies that we think we would like to participate. The floor is open for any comments on that.
Chairman, the Jamaica Coalition for Tobacco Control, I know that you weren't giving an exhaustive list, but I think it's important to mention that particular stakeholder, Jamaica Coalition for Tobacco Control.
Right. Yeah, and that was just, I actually spoke with them this morning, our representative of that group, and I asked them to be the first to make a presentation. They were very involved also. So yes, they are priority on the list. Any comments from members?
Chair, perhaps you'd want to include also the National Council on Drug Abuse.
Okay, I'm being advised that maybe I should read the list out fully. So just give me a minute here. Association of General Practitioners, Caribbean College of Family Physicians, Jamaica chapter, Jamaica Psychiatric Association, Jamaica Psychological Society, Diabetes Association of Jamaica, Jamaica Cancer Society, Nurses Association of Jamaica, Heart Foundation of Jamaica, the Medical Association of Jamaica, Jamaica Medical Doctors Association, the Medical Council of Jamaica, the Jamaica Dental Association, the National Council on Drug Abuse, which was said earlier, Cannabis Licensing Authority, Carreras Limited, Jamaica Teachers Association, National Secondary Students Council, and the Jamaica Union of Tertiary Students. So that's the list that I have here. We agreed that we would communicate with them and invite them to, yeah? Are there any other that you would like to add?
Can I also suggest, since the impact of this legislation is proposing to change the behavior of some businesses, maybe we'd like to hear from the Jamaica Chamber of Commerce, the Jamaica Manufacturers Association, the PSOJ. I can also think of the Exporters Association. Those who have been aligned to business operations. And since it also impacts workspace and workplace, maybe we'd want to hear from the confederations of trade unions, if they so desire, and the Employers Association. And just for clarity, in terms of the sequence of procedure, so you have indicated where Mr. Edwards would take us through. Is it that we're going to be hearing the comments or submissions from those external parties to form some sort of a matrix before Mr. Edwards take us through, or is it the other way around?
My thought process was to have Mr. Edwards take us through the critical components of the bill and the thought process behind it, given that much consultations are taking place leading up to this, and then so that when others come to present, we have some context and background and can therefore be perhaps more informed in probing some of the submissions that would have been made. So that was my thought.
That's fine. That's fine with me, Chair.
Chair,
Member Golding and then Member Langmore, and then we come to you. Yeah.
I don't want to add to the already substantial list, and I suspect there are some entities on there that it might be a list with some duplication in terms of a submission. Sorry. But what I'm suggesting, whether it is the Ministry of Local Government who has responsibility for bars and taverns and so on, and I don't know if that industry has a private association of members, bars and restaurants and taverns. Small business association might qualify. But to hear from them, because certainly in terms of behavioral change and how people interact socially in relation to the use of tobacco, they would be most impacted.
Okay, thank you.
Again, also, Chair, I think we want to be as thorough as we possibly can. Considering that we're targeting a lot of our schools, and the primary role of this is educating and targeting our youth population, perhaps someone from the Ministry of Education or the School Teachers Association, et cetera, et cetera. JTA. JTA, but in terms... JTA is on it?
We do have the Jamaica Teachers Association, okay. Yes. Mm-hmm. Okay, and then afterwards we go to the extreme end, Senator or MP Morrison. Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Just for clarity purposes, is it that we would have the comments coming first and then the public notice go out for the public to make their comments? Or submit their comments? What was the order?
Right, so we would advertise for 4 weeks or so, 3 to 4 weeks, and they would, with a deadline for them to submit, and then they would submit, and then we would invite them in. So they would submit, and then we would have them come to present. All right? MP Morrison, and then MP Daly.
Thank you, Chairman. I was just here having a sidebar conversation with my colleague, and we're of the view that we should invite individuals from the entertainment fraternity to contribute, because they are going to play a very key role in carrying the message. So it's very important to have their buy-in or their view in our deliberations.
Is there a particular association that you are aware of, or could?
No, this is something.
Because I don't know if they have an association, but
right, maybe we could have this discussion with the minister
Right, okay. I'll talk to the minister. That's fine. And remember now, we're going to be inviting, it will be a general invitation. It's just that we're selecting a list that we know could add some value to the conversation. But point taken. MP Daly?
I just, morning and sorry to be late. I just got some clarity from my colleague in regards to some of the questions that I would want to put forward. But just, I don't know if it would assist the committee if we could know exactly the persons, because there's a number of persons came in at first to make representation when it was Dr. Fenton Ferguson. Would you look at that list, or you would still take back those persons to come before you
right.
to lobby?
So we have a list which I read out. I don't know if you were listening.
No, I wasn't here.
Yeah, so we have a fairly long list, and then the members were suggesting other entities.
Okay.
Remember now, in the initial stages, those entities, individuals came and commented on that aspect of the amendment that would have been focused on at the time. This is a lot more comprehensive now. We have had consultations leading up to this point, so we're sort of wiping the slate clean now that we actually have a document and inviting these entities and any other to come and to make the submissions. Okay, so anyone can express an interest and make a submission. All right, so
Chair, just a quick point of clarification. When maybe I didn't communicate exactly or thoroughly my inclusion in terms of the youth population or education. It's also, I would love to get feedback from the youth themselves or input from the youth themselves. So I was just discussing with my colleague and perhaps the council for
we have
Students' Council.
Right, so I'd said the National Secondary Student Council.
Fantastic.
And the Jamaica Union of Tertiary Students.
Okay, fantastic.
So we have at the high school level. And
right,
at the,
great.
They're on the list.
Great, thank you.
All right,
Sorry,
so
Minister.
Just one thing for clarity again, Chair.
Uh-huh.
You made reference to the consultation that would have taken place. Could we get a feel as a committee who were those groupings that the consultation that would have been part of the consultation?
Okay, I'm going to ask Cheryl to just indicate some of the groups that were consulted with.
So one of the points I wanted to make in relation to the OCA, so we could add the OCA, and I just want to point out that we had consulted with them, but I think that they also should be added to the list. So we would have consulted with all the ministries, departments, and agencies. So that would include the Ministry of Finance, all the ministries. Apart from the ministries, we would have consulted with the Jamaica Coalition for Tobacco Control, and that coalition is comprised of several of the entities that you outlined earlier, such as the JMDA, the Nurses Association, but as a coalition, they speak as one voice, including the Jamaica Cancer Society. We would have also done some consultations with some of our international partners. So in terms of the bill and the draft, we had constant or consistent feedback from legal representatives of the FCTC, that's the governing body under which the treaty would have come into place, and also the WHO. So we would have had consultations, not just regionally, but also from that global perspective. And in terms of the other players, we would have done some amount of consultation with the Jamaica Hotel and Tourist Association, and I just want to mention too that we would want to have them added to the list for further consultation.
And just quickly, just for my own clarity, the representatives that are before us now, were anybody from this group was on the first group of, in terms of when we were making the first set of submissions?
Yes, you're talking about whether we were a part of the, right. So I would have been at the ministry from the time of the regulations and would have worked closely with Mr. Edwards, who at the time was CPC, in terms of the regulations when it began leading up to now. In terms of the consultations, you would recall that the regulations would have been promulgated under the Public Health Act. So we did not have a tabling and a committee sitting of this nature. However, after it was promulgated, based on the public interest that was displayed, there was a decision taken to have it tabled before the HRSD. And I recall the members who were on that committee, and of course we would have had submissions at that point as well.
Okay, so can I just go back now to what was proposed? I know that a few members came in, MP, two additional members, welcome. So let me just repeat quickly what I am proposing. I take it that the comments are more around who to notify. And so we've agreed that we will notify a fairly extensive list of entities and invite them. Now, it's up to them to take up the offer, okay? But we will write to them. And then beyond that, we will advertise and give a deadline. Did we agree on 3 or 4 weeks? Is 4 weeks, I'm told between 3 and 4 weeks is a fairly standard period of time. Can we say 4 then? 4 weeks? Is that agreed? So that would be the 24th of March as a deadline for submissions. So we will we'll expose that as quickly as possible. And then based on those submissions, we will schedule presentations. And if we're agreed, is every other week a good period to have these meetings? I don't want to burden you with a weekly meeting because I know there's a lot of other things that you have to do. So I say
Chair,
twice a month.
Chair, given the experience, can we just, and the availability of the Parliament, can we just identify a day?
I actually have that. I wanted to get the structure. Is twice a month accepted? Yes. You were saying something, Member Golden? You were making a point on this?
No, actually, Chair, I was commenting on the timeline for submissions, anticipating that that public notice will go out this week. Okay.
We will make it this Sunday, I'm told, this weekend. All right, so twice a month, and I'm proposing the next meeting for the 10th. That's Wednesday, the 10th of March at 10 a.m. MP Lee?
Yes, Chairman. I'm just informing you that the PAAC usually meets on a Wednesday at 10 as well. It's just that for the 2 consecutive Wednesdays, they're on a somewhat of a break, but normally at this time, the PAAC meets here.
Right, so I'm told it's not scheduled for this 10th because we're looking at the, but if we can't do it on a Wednesday, we'll do it on a Thursday. How is that? At 10 a.m. So this 10th apparently is free for at 10 o'clock.
Okay, so it's not that Wednesday, then it's a set day. I get what you're saying. So
right, so I'm saying if given the fact that we may have PAC some Wednesdays, then we'll go to Thursday. Okay, is that okay?
Chairman, I know that, well, Wednesday seems to work well for most persons. Is Wednesday afternoon available? Rather than if it clashes Wednesday morning?
The afternoon is really, really bad. It's not possible for me.
Oh, okay.
Unfortunately.
Because I know Thursday is not possible.
Unless we go to a Thursday morning or focus more on a Thursday. Can we do that? I'm flexible the Wednesday or Thursday morning at 10. Depending on the schedule, of course. Which particular day of the week you're more comfortable with? 10th for the next meeting. That's a Wednesday.
A Thursday would not be possible for me. I have 2 things that I have to do on Thursday. I go to my constituency, and I have a class on Thursdays that I have to attend to.
Dr. Guy is also not available outside of a Wednesday. That's why I was raising it. And he would be critical.
Outside of a Wednesday?
Correct. He's available on Wednesdays.
Right. And
correct.
Yeah. So can we agree then that we'll try to keep the 10 o'clock on a Wednesday, subject to availability of, is that all right? Okay. So twice a month on a Wednesday, 10 a.m. Give me a second, please. I'm just consulting on the... Member, you were saying that member Guy is not available at all on a Thursday?
Correct. Yes, Chairman.
Nor is MP Denise Daly. Wednesdays are bad for me, but I understand that normally PAC meets Wednesday mornings. Not this Wednesday, but not the 10th, but normally. Thursday morning would be good, but that would eliminate you two. Well, what were you saying? All right. And Fridays are normally not good. So Mondays, cabinet. Tuesdays, 100 things, including parliament. Wednesdays, we have to find time for the people's business, huh? It's Wednesdays or Thursdays. And if it can't be morning because of PAC, then it's either afternoon or Thursday morning. So we may have to look at it. It's going to kind of give me a little challenge, but if we have to do it in the afternoon on a Wednesday, then we schedule for the afternoon on a Wednesday. And afternoon means 2 o'clock? 2 p.m. Okay. But so some of us may be inconvenienced, but we will move between Wednesday and Thursday. Wednesday at 2 or Thursday at 10.
Chair, is there a reason why it must start at 2?
You want to start at 3?
No, I want to start at 1.
1 may be a little challenging. Yeah, for the other meeting, PAC and all that. I think it may be a little difficult. We have to, 2 would be probably the sweet spot. All right, so we'll make a note of that. But the next one on the 10th will be on Wednesday at 10, okay? All right. Outside of that, is there any other procedural matter that you think is necessary to agree on?
Yes, Chair.
Yes.
As I think members and other officials here would appreciate, as you would, Chair, it will be a dynamic process, and a lot will depend on the nature of the responses that are received, because we would expect that the parliamentary staff would be preparing a matrix based on the responses received, and therefore, having had an overview during the next couple sittings, it will be expected that what would actually be deliberated on would really be the matters that have raised the interest of the persons invited, stakeholders and others. And therefore, to avoid duplication, it is expected that only it's likely that several of the stakeholder groups will have some of the same concerns. So the preparation of the matrix and the time that the parliamentary staff will need to do that is very important to account for, because that will be the driving document, that will be the guiding document to take us through the deliberations based on the responses received. So I don't know if we need to get any indication from the clerk to the committee as to how much time. I know you don't. We don't know how many responses and the nature and how fulsome the responses will be. But
I think, Mr. Edwards, that we should hold on that a little and then see how it pans out in terms of the submissions and so on, and then we would be in a better position to be more specific in terms of the approach. But the principle that you articulate is correct, but I think we have to have a more indicative position before we can do that, wouldn't you say? Yeah, but I take the point. Okay. All right.
Also,
Chairman, if there's just one thing, I'm just going to ask the committee not to double book a meeting. Today, we have a challenge because there are 2 joint select committees scheduled for the exact same time. And what you have to understand is the technical team is very limited. There are very few of us that are monitoring and assisting the committees with these meetings. And part of the problem is that sometimes these decisions are taken without even really consulting us. So, for instance, today, the Chambers does have a difficulty. So I'm just going to ask that you bear in mind when you go forward, because there are other joint select committees that are also sitting and meeting. Some of them also do meet on a Wednesday afternoon. So I'm just going to make a plea that you not try to double book the meeting. And when I mean the technical staff, I'm also including the Hansard writers, the staff of Parliament, as well as the rest of us. Some are not as vocal as I am.
Got you. And I think Parliament is or should be seized with that impracticality of having 2 meetings at the same time.
Yeah, we hope, Chair, because Soldier is right. There are 2 committees meeting this afternoon, and we have issues with members sitting on either of the committees. And maybe you see, the parliamentary committees have become somewhat, especially joint select, somewhat very active. And maybe what is needed is someone to coordinate how and when these committees meet, given the limited days that we have in terms of week space for committees to meet, because it's just actually either Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday that committees can meet. So it has become very challenging.
All right, so I will have further words with the clerk and see if there's a problem. But I'm sure this is not something that requires too much elaboration. I mean, it's obvious that needs to be done. But if we need to follow up, we'll follow up. Mr. Edwards, sir.
Sure. Also, I think it will be appreciated that not every grouping that submits comments will be invited to speak. So that's another thing that will have to be managed. Yes.
Well, the committee, what we'll do is keep the committee informed on submissions and allow them to review and determine who comes and appears. But that's an important point to note. Yeah. All right, so any other business, if there's no other matter around the way forward, any other business? The 10th, March 10th at 10 a.m., Wednesday, March 10th. Because you've jumped from any other business to the date of the next meeting, which is agenda item number 7. Any other business? No? All right, so let me just take the opportunity to thank all of you. This is an excellent turnout. We appreciate the apologies sent. It's a very important subject matter. I think your presence here is an indication of the seriousness of this subject and your commitment to being part of what I would consider game-changing legislation, and certainly in the interest of public health. So really appreciate it. And in keeping with what was said earlier, we will adjourn now until next time, March 10th, 10 a.m., when Mr. Edwards will take the floor, supported by his team, Cheryl and others. And Mr. Edwards, we have technology here that, you can use it up, right, to make the explanations a little better. So if you want to apply a little creativity to your presentation, it keeps us engaged. Okay? All right. Can someone move a motion for adjournment, please?
Second.
Okay. So moved by MP Morrison, seconded by MP Gale. Thank you very much, guys. Senator Gale.